The following broadcast is intended for mature audiences. These are real people sharing very real, deeply personal experiences. This content may be considered triggering for others and for those who are sharing. The chat room is a privilege intended for discussions and sharing. You are not being asked to agree, but you are being asked to stay civil and refrain from personal attacks. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, welcome back to Am I Mental, a weekly live podcast where people share real stories about living their lives with mental health issues and things that impact mental health. I am your host, E, and with us as always is our co-host, Bexy.
Hello.
No KZ today. KZ is still trying to get settled in, but he will be joining us hopefully soon to be regular. And this is the final episode of our first year of this podcast. So congratulations, everybody. We made it.
Woo!
All right.
Rock on.
All right, so you may have heard just a second ago in the background, we do have our guest. It only took a year, but we finally got our first repeat guest of the season, or of our show. D, welcome back.
Thank you, E. Thank you.
Yeah, so just a quick reminder for everybody, D was on back in, I believe it was season 2, and he was one that shared his story about his son dealing with a tumor, or that was up against the ribs on the inside, pressing towards the heart, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yeah, so how is he doing, first off? How's the boy?
He's kicking ass. He's doing really well. We just had, it was a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago maybe, we went back down, had another MRI done, and it shows no signs of growth. And so they're going to go ahead and extend his next MRI for 6 months. And then if that comes out clear, then it'll be once a year for the next 10 years. So he's doing excellent.
No growth is awesome news.
Yeah, that's awesome. So why don't you tell us what we're going to talk about? And then I got to do a little housekeeping after that.
Okay.
I mean, it's like, well, why are you here today? Because we're not going to be talking about your son.
Well, me and you talked in the past, and we both know that I kind of had a different way of growing up, and I ended up being on my own when I was 12 years old. Yeah. That was of my own doing, and basically, we're going to talk about, I guess you could say, the trials and tribulations of everything that I went through since that time, with a little bit of background story, because I have to include that so people can understand exactly, this madness that went on. But in all reality,
it's a pretty big story.
It is, and it's so I'm going to try to abridge it and try to get as much details, but I'm going to need your help to stop me to make sure I can clarify things a little better, because it is quite long and dramatic.
Yeah, not a problem. I'll do the best I can. And with that said, for everybody, I am in the process of getting forums up on the website. I'm having some issues with the registration emails. For some reason, I get emails, notifications for everything except for actually verifying who you are. I'm working with tech support to try to get that fixed, and then we'll have forums up on our website. In the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, go ahead and share our episodes, especially ones that resonate with you or might resonate with someone else. We have been credited with saving some lives, and we'd like to keep that going. On top of that, if you want to help us to grow even further, because we are seeing some bills coming up here soon, web hosting, the 3-hour long shows that we can do, etc., etc., mimental.net/donate. There's a number of ways you could donate, and also you could buy some product if you'd like. We do get a cut of that ourselves, and you can also show your support for our show. We have masks, t-shirts, hoodies, tote bag, stickers. We got stuff. And if there's anything you'd like, go ahead and email me, just e@mimental.net, and let me know what you'd like, and I'll go ahead and get it created and added and put up. Without further ado, take it away, D.
Well, now that I've become savvy with this Spreaker thing, E, I actually have the chats up, so I'm able to read, and hopefully I'll be able to respond to people as we're doing this.
All right, if you do that, please read out the question, who it's from. Normally we leave that for Bexy. So I guess Bexy, you can just come on and just chill out with us.
She, by all means, she can do it and just let me ramble on.
That'll work. That's normally what I do.
Okay. So basically, to get started,
I think that the best way might actually be the your enrollment, even though it's not like part of your story per se. It's such a critical thing that does loop in later that it might be worth starting on that point just to. Plus,
kind of a teaser.
Yeah. Plus, it also is part of the reason why you wound up there in the end, anyway.
Right. True. So basically, the stories or everything that I'm going to share is basically made me who I am today. So when I came to Mount Shasta, I didn't have any parents, no parents at all. I left Los Angeles because of the fact that where I was at, the gang life was starting to get pretty serious, to the point where one of my childhood friends ended up getting involved, and he stole a bunch of stuff from me, and I just didn't want to be there anymore. I was scared. I didn't want to be there, and at 12 years old, I was thinking that, where do I go? How do I get out of here? And so I was born and raised in Colorado, and I was thinking, well, I'm going to go home to Colorado. And
I mean, how did you get to LA to begin with?
Well, my mother's a rainbow. She's a rainbow hippie. She calls herself a gypsy. So to give you an example, I've been in every state except for Maine and Hawaii, because we do all that traveling, going to rainbow gatherings, Grateful Dead shows, you name it. I was a little hippie kid.
Well, that explains why you found yourself in Mount Shasta, because you had like the Harmonic Convention, the Ascension Convention. The Harmonic Convergence. Sorry, I had to get
right. And we originally discovered Mount Shasta. I was in fourth grade. I believe it was fourth grade, and then my mother was pregnant with my little brother David, and we went to a rainbow gathering on Mount Shasta, on the mountain itself. And I remember it. So it was just beautiful. I just remember how awesome it was being up there. So she had to enroll us in school because she was giving birth to my little brother. And that's how I first got to meet my friends and started creating these relationships here in Mount Shasta, other than the rainbow relationship. So that's how the family discovered Mount Shasta. So when I was in LA and I knew I needed to get out of LA, I had two options: go back to Colorado or go to Mount Shasta. Well, being 12 years old, I'm like, oh, well, I can go to Mount Shasta because it's in the state of California, so it has to be closer. That was my thinking.
And if you drew lines on a map, not that much closer.
Not much closer. As I got older, it was like a 20-hour trip to Colorado, or well, back then it was 12, 13-hour trip to Mount Shasta from LA. Now the speed limit's up, so it only takes you 12 hours. But so I just naturally said, okay, I'm going to go back to Mount Shasta. And part of the reason also is because my older brother ran away from my mother, and he ended up staying and living with the Pryors, which lived here in Mount Shasta.
Great family. They lived like 2 blocks from my house.
Yeah.
Fantastic family. Like, everybody knows the Pryors in that area.
And so I thought, well, if I go to Mount Shasta, I have somebody that can help me, that I can go to and be safe. So the other part of me wanting to leave LA is because I wanted to get away from my brother's roommate. because at the time down there, I was molested twice by him. And I wanted to get away from that, the gang life, just that whole environment I just needed to get out. I had to get away. So I acquired a pickup truck, and it's an interesting story behind that. Gentleman.
You're 12 years old and you acquired a pickup truck.
Yes. So the guy was drunk. My brother was roommating with Harvey is his name, and his friend came over. He worked for GT&E, big head guy. I don't know. He was drunk, and his son got out of prison. He wanted his son to. Basically, he said, "I bought you this truck. I want you to stay clean. If you don't stay clean, then I'm taking the truck away." Well, within 1 week, he pissed dirty. Dad took the truck away. He was drunk. He's probably depressed, and he told me, he's all, "Dana, if you can find $1, you can have the truck because you deserve it more than my son does." I was 12 years old. I'm like, watch this. So I went and got $1 worth of change, dug it into the couch, between the cushions and stuff, and I gave it to him. I was like hopeful. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna get this truck. I'm gonna get it.
Yeah, here's your $1 from your change I found in your property.
So he comes back. I think it was like a week later. He came back and he said, "Here's your keys." And the truck's outside. And I was blown away. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So I ended up driving to school. I had to park a block away from school because I didn't want to get caught. I didn't want to see the teachers seeing me getting in and out of the school. This was in West Covina, by the way. There's a backstory to it, me living homeless and stuff before I got into this situation. But in regards to it, I got it back up, came back to Mount Shasta. I packed up the truck, and the guy that molested me, I think he was scared or something. And he said he ended up suddenly retiring from his job. And he's all, "I'm coming with you because I want to make sure you get there." So I'm like, fuck.
It's like, part of the reason I'm leaving is you.
Right. But I didn't know how to tell him, I didn't know what to do. I was just like, I can't tell him no, I can't. So basically he was haunting me. That's how it felt like. So he follows me. I'm driving. He falls behind. We get to Mount Shasta. I wanted to get back into school. There's a backstory to that as well. So I got myself back into 8th grade at Sisson. And
the final year at Sisson.
Yep. And Gunkel, he was the principal at the time, and he's all, "Well, where's your parents?" And I said, "I've never met my dad, and I don't know where my mom's at." Because when I ran away from home, my mom split. She left California. He's all, "Well, we can't enroll you into school unless we have a parent signature." Everyone's gone through that. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. So I was pretty bummed, got a little depressed. And then a couple days later, Gunkel called me in and said, "Well, you get to stay because since you were enrolled in 4th grade at the little white school back when my brother was born, we're going to go ahead and use the signature off of that paperwork and go ahead and enroll you with no parents."
And when you told me that story, I was blown away because I was always caught up on Gunkel being really a by-the-book kind of guy. So this was so not a character from what I ever knew.
Right. And I didn't know Gunkel at the time. I just knew I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going to happen because I was adamant I did not, and I was not going to become a ward of the court. I did everything I can to avoid that scenario. And so when he came to me and said, "All right, you're good. We can get you in school." And I was blown away. But anyways, so that's how I ended up in Mount Shasta and stayed in Mount Shasta. Was because of the fact that they had my mom's signature on file from 4th grade. So where do I go from here?
Well, I mean, if I remember correctly, and I could definitely be wrong, because I didn't really get to know you until I was already in high school, and you were almost out at that point, that I can remember. But if I'm not mistaken, you kind of bounced around a little bit as far as homing goes. Like the Pryors were definitely like the biggest influence on you.
Yes, Jim. I call him Dad. I still do. He's no longer with us, but I call him Dad. Yeah. He was basically my father figure because, teenage years, now that I'm an adult, I understand it. Teenage years were pretty influential. Like I was like a sponge and I needed that father figure at that time. So he became that foundation for me. But I guess you could say, well, let's see. So I've lived out in the woods during the summer times to save money. I was paying rent. I lived in a motel. I lived in garages, my friends' garages, a basement, in my tent. Where else? I think that's pretty much it. It's basically all my friends. So I have a lot of moms. So it's all my friends. I've lived at their house every once in a while. The reason why I didn't stay with Jim Pryor was because he, all the mills were shutting down up here.
Yep.
So he lost his job and he had a new wife and had 3 beautiful daughters and, well, 2 at the time. And then he was having a 3rd and he lost his job at the hospital. His back was screwed up. They had to move to Dunsmuir. And so I basically said, let's see, what grade was I in? I was either sophomore or junior. I can't remember. And I basically told him, I said, Dad, I'm okay. I've done it before. I've lived on my own before. I'm going to go ahead and basically I told him, I said, you can't afford to take care of me now. And I should be able to take care of myself. So I left. And first thing I did was set up camp out at Lake Siskiyou until I can get a more permanent place. I know during football season, I ended up staying with my defensive coach because they didn't want me to quit the football team. So,
well, you were kind of a stud, so I mean,
right, not really, but we'll go with that.
Hey, how many JV people got grabbed by their jersey as they're jogging down after a game to be told you're playing the varsity game back to back?
No one I know.
I was going to say, from what he told me, you were kind of a big deal in the football team. So
I remember hearing Height's name quite a few times.
Well, football was everything to me. That was where I let out all my anger because I had a lot of pent up anger growing up at 12 years old. I hated my mom. I didn't hate my dad because I never knew him.
Yeah, and that was me with Tycho. Yeah, I beat the shit out of those drums.
Yeah, I remember watching you too.
Football's a good outlet for all that.
And I remember watching you I was a fumble, and I was doing the da 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 up in the stands.
Well, yeah, that was my football was my outlet. It was where I excelled. Probably, it was everything to me. It was everything I needed for a guy that was dealing with what I was dealing with, and I needed the structure. I needed the discipline. So I grew a lot from that, and I got very close to my head coach.
Yeah, Coach Blevins.
Yeah, Coach Blevins, and so.
I mean, he really took you under wing too. I mean, he was great to like everybody. Like, there's a Facebook page about our cohort basically, and out of everyone, I've only heard of one person that did not have a good relationship with Blevins.
Yeah, I don't know how you don't have a good relationship with them.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't have to be a jock. You didn't have to be a brainiac. You
Mhm.
just had to be.
Right, right. Because you still had to take his PE class.
Yep.
He liked everybody. That was my impression. But I'm just glad he embraced me and he was kind of like my life coach. Um, Not only my football coach, but he was my life coach because he taught me how to deal with things and how to stay focused. Especially he used football as a way to keep me focused. And so I'm forever grateful for him, and that's why I went out of my way to make sure that we got the stadium named after him, and
Dude, that was amazing when you did that. I was blown away.
it was very important to me. And when Jana reached out to me to speak on behalf of Mount Shasta and the players and the students for him at his ceremony, that was a big honor for me to do that. There's only 3 speakers, and I got to be the one to speak for the Mount Shasta side of things, and that was huge for me. That was, I mean, good example, because of Blevins is the reason why I'm still with my wife.
Really?
We got together. Yeah, we got together in high school,
I remember
and Blevins let me leave PE and let me go court my wife in Mr. McNames's class. And he always told me, so if you leave my classroom, you be respectful and don't if Mr. McNames wants you out, you get out. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but Mr. McNames was the shit too. I mean,
yeah,
another just amazing teacher.
He was a cool cat, and so I used to go to Blevins and say, Blevins, I really need to go talk to my wife. Or she wasn't my wife at the time, but I didn't want to say her name. I said, I got to go talk to Ann. I got to go talk to her. And he's like, okay, go ahead and talk to her, but remember, you do everything with respect. And I'm like, yes, sir, I'll do it. Anyways, so where should I go from here? Because we know how I got enrolled back into school. So I guess let's start back when the reason why I left, the reason why I ran away. Los Angeles, West Covina. My mom, like I said, was a hippie gypsy woman. We had ended up in LA because the entire family, like 7 adults and a ton of kids, all migrated from Colorado to Los Angeles because everyone was looking for construction jobs. That's how we ended up in LA. My mom read her tarot cards one night, and just to give you an example, the reason why I've been in every state but Maine and Hawaii is because of the fact that my mom would read her tarot cards or whatever the case may be, and she'd either fight or flight. And we always left and ran away from where we were, traveling all over the U.S., and she'd escape to the Grateful Dead shows, and we'd go to live with the Rainbows and so on and so forth. Back when the Rainbows were actually rainbows. They're not, nowadays the Rainbows are drainbows. They're not true rainbows now. So she read her tarot cards, and I don't know if you remember this, but in schools they used to have these posters up telling you how important to have a high school diploma was.
Right.
I remember those.
Yeah, and I was I used to see them all the time. And being a hippie kid, we're always poor. We're always looked at and degraded, and society kind of looked at us like second children. And so, and my mom was always struggling. So I knew back then at 12 years old, I'm like, because we were raised to earn money on our own. My mom would drive into a town. She'd go to a house or a neighborhood and say, my kids will rake your yard and so on and so forth if you can help us out. That's what we used to do all the time. So I knew I could work. When she said that there's a specific poster, and I remember it, it's a guy pumping gas, and he's all, it's all to excel in life and get a good job. You have to have your high school diploma, something like that. And probably better wording than that, but I can't remember exactly the wording. And I remember the picture though. It was a guy pumping gas, staring at the tank. Back then, I can't believe that was a good job. But
well, I mean, you can still do that job in Oregon where you're not allowed to self-serve. Although I think they changed that recently.
Well, they did, but it's only in rural areas and after 8 p.m. So after 8 p.m., you can pump your own gas in rural areas. But in regards to it, when my mom said that, so I was focused on, working and trying to support and trying to make more money for the family, make my mom happy and, make my brothers happy. I'm one of 7 kids. When she got her trail cards and she freaked out, she wanted to leave. It was sudden. And most of the times that we move away we're gone within 48 hours because we lived in a van.
So it's just basically pack everything back in the van and go.
Yep. Our entire life was inside my mom's van. So when we moved, we just packed the van back up. I said no. I said, Mom, I'm not going. I want to get a high school diploma. I don't know. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I was pretty adamant. I'm like, I want to help out. I want to get a high school diploma so I can work and be functional with the family. My mom lost her shit. She lost it. And
well, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure most parents wouldn't like hearing that.
Right. Being that my mother was abusive, not only physically, but verbally, I had to get away from that situation pretty quick. So I ran out of the house and my mother came running after me. I'm running down the alley and I can just hear yelling, "You are the devil's child and karma's going to get you." And I mean, she was just spewing all kinds of stuff. I'm crying. I was so full of fear and I was shaking. I was crying. My mind was going like 1,000 miles a minute and I just kept running. And it's like the Forrest Gump thing. I just kept running. And I stopped at this grocery store. Can't remember the name of the grocery store, but it was like a Safeway. And I kind of caught my breath and tried to figure out what the hell was going on. And then I realized, she might be coming to find me. She might be coming to hunt me down. So I ran behind the store, and that's where I discovered where I'm going to be sleeping for a while. Because the back of the store, all the freezers and the refrigerators. I didn't know this back then, but as I got more experience, they had to vent the hot air out.
Right. The exhaust in the back.
Right. So in the back of the store, they had these grates that were street level. And what I did was I took a cardboard and I laid it over the grate, and I can sleep on the cardboard without any blankets because the hot air was just coming all around me. And it was constant. It never stopped.
Yeah. I mean, how many times do you ever see a store cooler ever turn off? You just don't.
Right. So it kept me warm.
We actually have a really good comment in here.
Yes, we have a couple. May says, I was raised by a hippie gypsy mother and father, both Geminis, by the way. And I totally get where you're coming from. Stability has been huge in raising my kid. I didn't want her to experience the feeling of not knowing where you're going to be sleeping or if you're going to be going to bed hungry. And
wow.
Devern says, I am beyond lucky. As much as I complained and chat about my parents rightly and tried to avoid it in my episode, speaking of it, I am lucky that they have always given me and still do give me stability.
Wow. I'd like to say something to Mai. I think I'm saying this right. Mai.
May.
Or May.
May.
So So exactly what you said there in regards to stability being a huge aspect of raising your kids. Um, that was my whole goal. Is that I wanted to create a foundation for my kids and make sure that they always had a place to always return to, and so and so. So my thing was, I've quit jobs. I've I've taken so many risks just to make sure that I kept my family strong and made sure that my kids always had a roof over their head and a foundation. And it's because of being raised by my hippie mom, gypsy mom, and the instability and the constant moving around and not knowing exactly the experience that you're talking about. That's the same lesson I learned. And I guess it goes with why I've had so much tolerance, and I've been with my wife since high school. We have two beautiful kids, and so kudos to you. It's cool how I've learned, and I've gone throughout life where other people are learning the same lesson, but through different scenarios, and we're all alike in a way. So I just wanted to address that.
Awesome. So now you found the place that you're going to be sleeping. You put some cardboard on the crates.
Yeah.
That way you didn't need to have like a mattress or anything. You wouldn't feel all the slats digging in.
Right, and it's also LA, so it's warm, but I'm still a kid.
Right.
And
But, I mean, even LA gets cold.
yeah,
I mean, not like Mount Shasta cold in Colorado,
Right.
cold, but it still gets cold.
as I look at the snow outside. But anyways, so being a hippie kid and growing up with my mom, she taught us how to eat out of the garbage can. Because she's the one that taught us, that the stores throw out good produce and good product, even though it's still good beyond their whatever it's called, expiration date.
Right. Like the expiration date's more of a purchase by date, typically.
Yeah, and the stores would throw it out when that date would come. So I ate a lot of vegetables, a lot of vegetables. But I got to tell you this one experience. I had they threw away these frozen pizzas, and I was like, oh, yes, I'm getting me one of those. So I pulled out this pizza, and I put it on the vent, and I let it sit there for, I don't know, it seemed like all day. Because what I used to do is I used to go in the front of the store and I used to ask for quarters, because this was back in the day when the grocery stores used to have video games in the front of the store.
Video games in Mount Shasta, but we had the little coin op, bubblegum machines and stuff.
Right. But in the cities and stuff, a lot of the grocery stores used to have video games for kids to play while the parents were shopping.
I feel so deprived.
Well, that's how I got to play video games and stuff, and get money from people up front, and that's how I was actually originally found by my, I call him uncle, but he's not my real uncle. Anyways, I ate that pizza. It was the dough was still gummy and gooey, and I got sick as hell. I just remember it being the worst experience of my life, because I had no mom that I can go to and say, Mom, I'm sick. I basically was all by myself, and I'm sitting there just saying, is this the way I'm going to die? Is this the way I'm going to die? I was crying, and I was like, it was brutal. It was a big test. I guess you could say mental test for me. And by the way, at the same time, I'm still going to school in the same clothes every day. So I was on the streets for 2 months. Uncle Dan, who I call Uncle, I was out there begging for quarters, and he happened to be in town and decided to go to the store. And he walked right up to me and said, where the hell have you been? And I just started crying and hugged him. as I didn't let go of him, and I didn't want him to leave. And he knew everything that happened. He found out through my uncles, my other uncles and stuff. He knew I was gone. He knew that nobody knew where I was. And so he took me in, and I stayed with him for a while until he was able to get in contact with my older brother, who was in Hesperia at the time. I got hooked up. So I stayed with him for like a month or two. He took me skiing. He was like treating me. It felt good. It felt really good. I felt like I was saved. You know, I was like, I felt like I was where I should have been, and
So
I needed it.
if you follow karma, that pizza earned you enough karma to get reconnected with your brother.
Yeah, Dan, I was like so thankful for that nasty pizza.
Do you still eat pizza now, though? That's the question.
Oh hell yeah!
Okay.
Oh yeah, I do.
But DeVern had a question for you.
What's
Yes. Javern asks, was music ever a big part of helping you get through? Music is everything to me, and I wonder how much it means to others.
that?
And I responded, you know what music means to me. We'll get your question as soon. And May responded, music is life. Now for you.
Yes. Music was huge. You know, I grew up as a kid. You know, we always had drum circles. We always had some kind of musical instrument in our hand. And I remember getting my first record player. And so it was huge. But unfortunately, at that time, I had nothing. I had nothing to listen to. It wasn't until I got with my uncle, which actually went into the music thing because his uncle lived in Malibu and had this like you know the big bands with you know, you got like 5 horns, a couple violins.
Oh yeah,
you know,
big band. The genre.
bands.
Yes.
Yeah. So his uncle had this big band, and they were doing shows, and they were doing a show at called the Screaming Clam, right down there on the beach in Malibu. Well, I was with my uncle. His name's Dan, and he took me to meet this guy, and that was a healing source for me because of the fact that I was around people that I needed to be around. I felt pretty at home, and that was when I met Brooke Shields at the Screaming Clam. My uncle took me down there because they were doing a show there, and
Brooke Shields. Shit.
Well, I didn't even know who the hell she was, but my uncle's like, "Hey, that's Brooke Shields. She's a famous actress." And I'm like, "Oh, really? Actress? Famous?" Well, I was like, "Okay, I gotta meet her." She was gorgeous, you know.
Oh, she still is.
She looked like, at that time, she looked more like a teen. She could have been a little older. I don't know. I didn't know her age or anything. I gotta remember, I'm like 12 and a half years old or whatever at this time. And so my uncle introduced me to her.
Well, just so you know, she's 55 now, so you can do the math.
Okay, so she's 9 years older than me.
Yeah.
So that means she would have been.
So if you were 12, she was
21.
Yeah, 21.
Which would make sense because
The bar scene.
Yep, she was doing her thing. So after that, Dan found my older brother Chris. He stayed in LA and was roommating with Harvey. And so I'm like, oh my God, let's go see my brother. Come to find out, my brother was still living in the same apartment complex that I ran away from.
Oh, whoa.
So when Mom left, he stayed and ended up roommating with Harvey and staying in the same place. I had no idea. I didn't know. I thought when Mom left, I thought everybody left. So I never went back. So we ended up back at the same apartment complex. I ended up living with my brother for a little bit. We were going to try to get him legal custody, and it got kind of, from what I understand, it was getting like complicated. My brother was stressed out, and I was not feeling comfortable about it. I didn't like the whole idea. I was starting to not like it. Starting to see how unstable my brother was, and it just was not. I was kind of nervous about it, and then all of a sudden, he says, "Oh, I'm getting married." I'm like, "Really?" And he's all, "I can't take you with me because I'm starting a new life, and I can't have you with me and take care of you." So basically, I got ditched with Harvey. And after he left, that's when Harvey molested me twice. And that's when I made it a goal to get out and get out bad. So I got to Mount Shasta. We already talked about how I got enrolled back into Mount Shasta and lived on the streets. God.
Sorry about that. I had to kick my dogs out. They were starting to get rowdy.
That's all right. There's so many details. I hope I'm not getting too vague here. I mean,
just your drive to get your high school diploma. Now what we know what a high school diploma is worth. Still, that was impressive. You stuck to it, man.
Well, yeah. So 8th grade, I'm in 8th grade, and I knew I wanted to play football. I was a Denver Bronco fan since I was like 4 years old. Born and raised in Colorado. Well, I shouldn't say raised because I was still only 12 and a half, almost 13 or so. Can't remember how old I was. But anyways, so football was my thing, and I remember getting into Sisson. First day at school, a girl named Rachel, she recognized me. And she saw, "Does your name happen to be blah, 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 blah?" And I said, "Yeah, it is." And she told me who she was. Well, she happened to be my best friend was when I was in 4th grade. And we reconnected.
That's awesome.
We happened to be in the same class together.
That is really cool.
And I know you know her, E. Her last name's Nelson.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
And you know her mom. Her mom was a little her mom was kind of off the wall too. It's probably why in 4th grade her and my mom got along so well.
Funny how that works.
Yeah. But she recognized me and pointed me out, and the next thing I know, everyone that I went to school with in 4th grade started remembering who I was. So all of a sudden, I was at home. It was like a sudden feeling like I'm where I should be.
Now, from a perspective of someone that's been a native of Mount Shasta, was never enrolled in any other school, hell yeah, we remember the students that came and left.
I bet.
Because that's rare occurrence. For one to come back, wow, that's like the holy grail, and that's in that town.
Yeah, I didn't even imagine that anyone or I didn't even think of the idea that there was going to be people there that I knew when I was there in 4th grade.
And what would have happened is like after you left, everybody would be like, "I wonder whatever happened to him."
Where'd that hippie kid go that stuck his hand in the gopher hole and got bit in 4th grade? Where'd that kid go?
Right?
Did he die from that bite? Where did it happen to him? Anyways, so that at the time that made me feel good, and I felt like I was where I needed to be. I ended up connecting with everybody like really quick. it wasn't like that odd feeling when you're in a new school and you don't know anybody and you're trying to find out where you're at, what circle you're going to be in, who's good friend. And I didn't have to worry about that. Everything just kind of clicked, and everybody, well, not everybody, but I would say 75% of the students remembered who I was. So that was a blessing. And then here's where I got lucky, is that Gunkel had a conversation with Mr. I just totally drew a blank. The principal.
Novo.
Principal Mesh. Novo. I had a conversation with Novo, and they allowed me to enroll into high school without parent signature. They still kept me going.
But again, Nova was an amazing human being in his own right. Always known for doing the crazy stunt for the first day of school.
Yeah, ripping a phone book or showing up in a limousine or
skydiving
or he came in that one year with all the Humvees and the military transport stuff.
Yep, I remember hearing
dressed in fatigues.
Remember hearing a story one year the football team carried him on a surfboard.
Oh yeah, that's right. Into the gym. I remember that. But
I didn't get to see that because my freshman year was his last year on Earth.
Yeah.
So he didn't do much that year for the first day of school because he was already suffering pretty bad.
He was already sick.
Fuck cancer.
Yeah. I got to know his daughter pretty well too, Darcy. But so they let me enroll in school. I started playing football. My whole goal, I think football is the reason why I passed high school. And to be honest with you, I'm just going to tell you something right now. If you look at my transcripts, when I graduated, they went ahead and just let me go because I didn't have enough points.
They didn't do that for me.
Yeah.
My ass got sent to Jefferson for a super senior year.
Wow. If you add up all my points and stuff, you can see it's...
You're shy of the 120?
Yeah, I was shy. So football was my tool to keep my grades up and try to stay in. I was really bad in school. I was terrible at math. I was terrible at English because I was deaf for the first 4 years of my life because my eardrums didn't form before I was born. So it took 4 years for them to finish developing.
Wow.
And because of that, I didn't speak fluent in English until I was like 6 or 7 because I was deaf. So kind of hard to learn English when you're born until you're 4 years old. But so I ended up being in special ed classes in both Sisson and in Mount Shasta High. And football was my thing to keep me disciplined and try to keep a 2.0 at all times so I can stay in school and keep doing it because my whole goal was that I'm going to get out of this school with my diploma. And I was dead set on making sure I get my diploma, and I made that decision when I ran away from my mom, and I kept that drive. And I had to make sure no matter what I go through, I have to stay in school and get that diploma.
Speaking of that, we have a couple of comments. May says, sending you love, D. I'm so sorry you went through that. Javern says, D, you are amazing at how you survived and fought for what you needed. Kat says, how many 12-year-olds would have that much fortitude? He says, one that I know of. That's it. And Javern says, not many. I still don't have that kind.
And then, of course, May made a very excellent point. Everybody dies famous in a small town.
Yeah, you can say that one of the reasons why they everybody, well, I guess nowadays it's not really true, but everybody knew me because I was the kid that that didn't have parents. But that didn't come until after high school because while I was going through high school, I kept it a secret. I didn't want people feeling sorry for me. I didn't want people saying, "Oh," and number one reason, I didn't want to be ward of the court. I did not want people to start saying, "Oh, this kid needs to be going to a foster home. This kid needs this," because I've already been in 4 different foster homes growing up, and I already experienced that, and it is not a good experience. I'm telling you right now. I don't. Other kids may have had a different experience, but I didn't. When you walk into a foster home for the first time, and then the 2 adult people tell you that they love you.
They don't even know you, though.
They don't even know you. They don't even know me. It's like, so I was put off every time. They're like, "Oh, you oh, it was such bullshit, to be honest. The whole, I was in a foster care for like almost a year in Colorado. It seemed like a year. I can't remember exact time. You know, I gotta remember I'm young. I was young, so I still got to get my date straight.
I mean, this is one of the reasons why we're friends. Is you don't deal with bullshit.
No,
And I know
I won't.
I know exactly where I stand with you. You know exactly where you stand with me, and I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure you feel like I do. You really appreciate knowing exactly where we stand.
Yes, that's why you've probably become one of my close friends, just because the fact that I don't want to deal with any other bullshit people anymore.
Right?
But
Yeah, we're at that point in life where our Facebook friends list just gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
smaller. Anyways,
But also, one thing I do remember about you very, very strongly, of course, was Flipwreck.
yes, no, that's a success story in my own eyes. That's a success story that I'm very proud of.
There's still people that I know that still remember. There's like out of all the like billions of bands that popped up and vanished, 2 always come to mind: Flipwreck and 100th Monkey.
Yeah. So this goes back to is it Davern?
Yeah, Davern's question.
Yeah, Davern, when talking about music, this goes back to it. So I went through high school. I lived every year. I lived in my friends' houses, basements. I lived with my dad, Jim, for a while. I left him because he had a small little family that he now took care of with no job and stuff. So I left there. I did everything to stay away from Harvey, who came up here. This is the guy that molested me twice. I did everything to stay away from this guy. So I was living I slept on a billboard. Yeah, you probably know the one I'm talking about, E, which was by the railroad tracks going towards the park.
Yeah.
Now it's the Mount Shasta Herald there, and then right before you get to the railroad tracks, there's that bulletin board that was right there.
Yep.
I used to climb on top of that and sleep on that platform.
Man, that's one place you don't want to roll out of bed.
Oh, and another good place that I slept, which I learned about. So when I slept in LA, having those vents coming from the grocery store.
Yeah.
Mount Shasta Super. If you look at the roof, it's rounded.
Yeah.
You know,
it's got that weird, like, gas station pretending to be a barn look.
Right. And then on the edges has a little lip that comes up and so on and so forth. Well, I used to jump on the dumpster, get up there, sleep in that little I don't know what you want to call it.
It's almost like a gutter.
Yeah, it's like a gutter.
Like a rain gutter.
Right. And I used to sleep there on top of the store.
Huh. Did not know that.
And nobody knew I was there because you couldn't see me. Because I was below that. Well, I was on the roof for one thing, but I was also below that little lip.
And I mean,
Anyways.
if you're talking about like the summertime in Mount Shasta, I mean, you couldn't find better weather to go sleep outdoors. Like,
Right.
seriously.
Right. I just made sure I had a good sleeping bag, and I used my backpack for my pillow. Um, so I lived out in the Lake Siskiyou because you gotta remember I was working at Mike and Tony's and Jerry's. I was working
God,
two
I miss
jobs doing
Jerry's.
football. I had to pay for my own food, take care of my own clothes, um, help out around the house, whoever I was staying with. And senior year, they started saying, "Oh well, I had two jobs my senior year." They're like, "Oh, we need to get." I guess that was the year that they wanted us to have football insurance, and then we had to start buying some of our own equipment. And I went to the coach and I said, "I can't play this year because this is my senior year is when I lived in the motel. I was
Okay.
paying rent in the motel, so I was paying weekly." And do you remember Johan from Sweden?
Yeah. Johan was
Okay,
awesome.
yeah. So he used to stay with me in the motel. And what the amazing story behind this is that because I had no parents, a lot of my friends' parents would not allow their kids to hang out with me or stay the night with me because I didn't have any parental influence. Blevins
My parents would have
wanted,
never have known. I would never have told
yeah.
them. Sorry, Bob. Sorry, Dad, if you're listening. But yeah, that's just the way it is.
Well, Blevins kind of went to break that mold because him and Jana started allowing Johan to stay with me every weekend for the whole year, uh, for the whole senior year.
That had to have
And
felt nice to have that.
oh, dude, it was kind of like a slap to the face of all the parents that were sitting here saying, "Oh, I don't want my kid around him. I don't want this, blah blah that and this and."
Pearl clutching. Dang, he's such a bad influence.
Yeah, yeah,
I've never needed to be a bad influence. I needed to be a little bit wild from time to time, but I mean, teenage years, who wasn't?
yeah. But the thing is that I knew growing up that I had to keep my nose clean. I had to stay truthful with people and not steal, do anything like that because I knew that if I did that, I would break the trust of people and they wouldn't help me out anymore.
And you'd become a lord of the court too.
Right. So I had to make sure that I watched my P's and Q's. I went through massive depression, 2 suicide attempts. And I got myself into counseling my senior year, and they put me on some antidepressant. Our counselor, Mr. Houston, he was huge because I would be losing my shit at school, and I'd just walk into the office and say, "I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm leaving." And Houston says, "You know what? Let's take a drive and go take a walk at the lake. Let's get you to cool off." I'm like, "Okay, whatever. Let's do it. Get me out of here."
You're like, you're not going to change my mind, but yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah,
changed
get me
your mind.
get me the hell out of here. So he changed my mind. I end up back at school, doing the football thing and everything else. But there's so many little details that I want to be able to share, but I know we don't have enough time. I mean, technically it's a lifetime of stuff.
Yeah, and we're almost an hour in right now. I mean, we're at 59 minutes and like 13 seconds, so.
Well, and I'm sorry if I keep bouncing around. It's because I'm remembering things as I talk about other things that I went through.
And that's okay. That's why we have this open platform, so you can take your time and tell your story the way you need to.
I appreciate that. So the whole stigma of the parents, deal. That was huge for Blevins to do that for me. It kind of broke ice and kind of shoved it in these parents' faces saying, you know what, he's not a bad kid. He is not a bad kid. And I tried not to be. That was my goal. I wanted to make sure that if I needed help, that I could go to someone and ask for it, and they didn't feel like, oh, I'm not going to help this kid. He'll just steal from us, or he's all hooked on crack, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to do that. So I stayed away from drugs. I stayed away from alcohol all through high school. Football was my number one outlet. Blevins was my life coach. Mr. Houston was there to help me so I don't lose my shit and
blow up your life.
And blow my life up, yeah. I seeked counseling for myself, which was actually...
And Gunkel was also instrumental in getting you on that, that
yep.
straight and narrow.
Yep, Gunkel set me on this path. And even to this day, when I see him, I always thank him, and he always tells me he admires where I've come from.
Well, dude, I mean, you're a success story. From
You've got quite a few admirers in this chat. Trust me.
Yes.
May asks, I may have missed it, and I'm sorry if I have, but where were you in the line of your 6 siblings? Are you still in contact with any of them?
That's a good question. I love that. So I'm right dab slab in the middle. 3 older, 3 younger. And like my mom says, I got the best of everything.
If you're right smack in the middle, that's why you were left behind. Your mom forgot about you. Remember the middle child syndrome.
So I never got new clothes. I always got hand-me-downs. It was rare that I got a present that was just for me. Like something where it said just Dana on it. And, I only remember 3 birthdays my entire life when I was a kid, from my mother, I should say, to be clear. My 3 oldest, I don't communicate with my brother Chris anymore because he doesn't have a backbone, and I don't deal with bullshit people. He's in a mess of his own, and he should probably be on here to talk about his things and maybe get some healing for himself.
Hook him up, get him on, get him to listen a little bit, and we'll get him on if he wants to.
Well, unfortunately, he doesn't even know how to use a computer.
Well, that's kind of critical on getting on the show. just saying.
Yep. Then my next older brother is Roger. He's an absolute fucking mess, and there's a whole story about me and him and why I don't want to have any contact with him ever. And then there's my oldest, my sister. She's the only sister in the family, the only girl. She was a tough cookie. I remember watching her whoop my older brother's asses several times. I was scared of her.
You're like, you don't need to whoop mine. I've seen enough.
Yeah, I've seen enough. That's what's great about being the middle kid, because you get to watch all the fuck ups your older siblings make, learn from them, and then you get to be a better influence on your younger 3. But anyways, I do keep in touch with my sister. I love her to death. We've all reconnected again, except for my 2 older brothers, after my mother passed away. And I keep in touch frequently with my sister, and she's very involved with my kids. We're all separated. Being hippie kids, originally I had a brother in Florida, 2 brothers in Detroit. I have a brother now another brother in Texas. My other brother, Eros, is in Pennsylvania now. And I got a brother in Colorado. And they're everywhere. Because they all left, as mom's traveling all around the country, they all kind of leave, and they end up being where they leave. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of the line from Fight Club. didn't say the family should have franchises.
Well, speaking of franchises, me and my brothers and sister, we always joke like, God, I wish they would have had reality TV back when we were growing up, because if somebody could have followed our family, it would have been a franchise.
Yeah.
But anyways,
one thing you never really finished about the whole flip wreck. Like, what was your part? I know that Dever's probably like, dude, you kind of glossed over my question.
I know. I apologize. What happened was I was leading up to it, trying to get through the high school thing, so I can explain how I got involved with flip wreck. But then I got sidetracked.
It happens.
So high school thing, graduate from high school, which was great. I was planning on going in the Marines, and I was a pussy, so I pulled out. And then my good friend, who I knew in high school, he was a musician, and he's an amazing musician. He's kind of like what I would have called a prodigy back then, because just the way he could play the piano, the bass, the guitar at such a young age, I was just mesmerized with him. Well, we became really good friends, best friends, as a matter of fact. And he had this band, and we used to go to house parties all the time and listen to them. And then the next thing you know, I got the bright idea. I'm like, you know what? It's time to take this band to another level. So I forked out the money and paid for their first album recording out of Fort Jones. And that's when it all started. Next thing you know, I had this natural business sense on how to deal with things. They made me their band manager. And being the band manager, what they said is, okay, your title's band manager, but you're part of the band, so you get a fourth of the cut, because there's only 3 people in the band, and I was number 4. So they included me as a band member. I didn't do anything except for manage the band.
Hey, but you're getting them to go places that they probably wouldn't have done on their own.
Yeah. True. I mean,
I still have a copy of that CD.
You do?
Yeah, you sent one to me about 10 years ago. You're like, hey, I found a box of CDs. I'm like, I'm like, dude, I want one.
I still have a box too.
If I remember correctly, it has the little green soldier on the cover.
Yeah, it has the little green soldier on the front, and it was called Friendly Fire.
Yep.
Flip wreck, Friendly Fire.
That's cool.
Now
I want a copy of this CD.
I'll hook you up.
Awesome.
So I took it to a new level from there. We were doing West Coast tours. I got them hooked up with a battle of bands in Eureka for El Jefe, who is the trumpet player and guitar player for NoFX.
Yep.
We won it, and part of the prize is to be able to record in NoFX's studio, and so came our next album, which was awesome. And so things were starting to grow big. I was already talking to underground labels and agencies. We started booking shows. We played a lot in Chico, Eureka. We opened up for Sublime. We opened up for, or actually Sublime at that time was called Long Beach Dub All Stars, because Bradley had just passed away. And so we played with them. We played with a lot of people. Anyways, that was the music scene, and I was back in it. I was in it big.
I was going to say, if you're in that time period, considering the geography, wouldn't be surprised if you ever cross paths with Michael Patton.
Patton?
Like lead singer for Faith No More, and Mr.
Yeah.
Bungle. And Mr.
Um,
Bungle's from Crescent City.
yeah, and also, Patton, and also who we ended up hanging out with a lot was Floater, a band
Really?
called Floater. Yeah, we did shows with them a lot, and they ended up being good friends of ours. Because back then they were pretty interesting, their music style. Um, but that was my thing. Is we pushed the limits. We're getting really successful, and unfortunately, band dynamics started to go downhill. Um, Basically, what happened was the girlfriends got involved.
Isn't that always the way?
Yes. So the last tour that I booked was a full West Coast tour. I was setting them up. We're using my van, by the way, when we're doing these tours. So I was driving everybody around. And because of the last little tour that we had, I said, I told them no more girlfriends, no more girlfriends on the road with us, because of the fact that I saw this fighting, this bickering, and then I saw their performance degrade on stage.
Because everybody's holding a grudge.
They're holding a grudge, and they're got other things on their mind. Is, am I going to break up with this girl or whatever the case may be? So I said no girlfriends. Well, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but there was a lie that was said, and it caused a rip into the band family, and they broke up. Broke my heart, because I had a big tour ready for them, and I was pretty pissed off because I was ready to do this, and I did all this work. We got stickers, we got all this merchandise ready and stuff, but I guess you can say it was a blessing in disguise as well, because after that happened, I went back to my now wife, who was a full-time student at Southern Oregon University. I went back up there and started my production company and ran it successfully for 15 years, and did a lot of shows, did a lot of good things. And then, that's the music business for me. I mean, it goes way in depth. There's a lot more to it, because not only music, I became a multimedia producer. So I was doing television commercials, radio, marketing campaigns for businesses, doing events and festivals for, like, good examples, the city of Medford. Their
That's actually my birth town.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Medical emergency. What's funny? You remember Lalo?
Lalo, are you talking about the kid or the?
Yeah, not Dad, the kid.
Okay, yeah.
He was born one day before me in the same hospital.
That's crazy.
Right?
That's really crazy. Interesting too. No wonder why you guys are crazy. Oh,
yeah. Well, it could be a Rogue Valley Hospital thing.
Yeah, and that's where my daughter was born.
Oh, wow.
Rogue Valley Hospital.
Well, that explains that photo
awesome.
that I saw.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's the music deal of it. I mean, there's a huge thing. I mean, there's a lot more to that. A lot of successes, a lot of great adventures, and a lot of stories to tell about that on its own. But the gist of the story is that I'm blessed the way that I don't know. I guess you can just say is I
mean,
I was angry.
You had every opportunity and every excuse to come out on the shit end of things, be basically a waste of the society, and no one would have blamed you. And you came out, I mean, seriously, you came out on top.
Well, I appreciate that, Eric. E.
Absolutely, you did.
And there was the name drop for me.
I know.
It happened.
And it wasn't me.
Sorry.
It
It's
happens.
straight natural.
Yeah.
So
No, and I mean, it's
I
like,
do want.
I remember when we first really started getting close, you were doing that meal delivery company that you had, and you were go across 2 states, and then California changed its laws, and you basically went, "Fuck this."
Yeah, I had the business Delivery Day Cuisine. It was before Uber, before
Yeah, like before Uber Eats, before Diner or DoorDash, and
all that.
yeah,
Um,
way before that.
way for that. And I sold that company for 3 times I bought it for. That was a big success of mine. But
Yeah.
I did want to share this. So you know the high school deal being no parents and all that.
Yeah.
So after graduating, I graduated and I was this was about I was going to go to Detroit. I was going to head over to Detroit and visit my 2 older brothers and just get out and see what's out there. And Jim Cardens, you remember him? Local police officer?
Yeah, I used to hang out with him over at Jerry's until it got closed down, then hung out at the Texaco, and then Jerry's became the first of many Black Bear restaurants.
Yep. So
and he used to give me rides home, and my parents would be like, at the neighbors coming, "Did you know that your son came home in a cop car last night?" It's like, yeah, I asked for a ride. He said yes. It was no big deal. It was like, unlike the rest of my family, when they got taken home by the cops, they had to be released by the cops to their parents. Me, it was, hey, have a good night.
he was so good to us. He gave us rides too, and he was probably the best cop that I've ever had to deal with in Mount Shasta. And
he's the best cop I've ever dealt with, period.
Well, and this goes into my story about this, just reinforces that. So in regards to it, so I just got back from commercial fishing in Alaska. And he showed up at the bar. I was at the bar. He showed up and I said, "Hey, Jim, I just wanted to thank you for everything you've done, helping me out through high school and taking care of me and so on and so forth. Can we I wanted to take him outside and talk to him, and, without the noise and stuff. And then he's all, "Well, let's take a drive." So we get in his car and we take a drive. And he told me this story that just absolutely fucking floored me. So apparently all through high school, the mayor, I think it was the mayor, the police chief, the student council, and Mr. Houston, I believe, was also involved, had regular meetings about me, about what to do with me, how to deal with me, because I had no parents. All through high school, they were having these regular meetings, and Carden said that over and over again, he fought for me. I think also Pericini, Houston, and others fought for me. And that's where it kind of hit home for me.
I mean, you kept your nose clean. You gave them every reason to fight for you.
They could have ruined my life. They could have absolutely ruined my life because there was a lot of them that wanted me to go become ward of the court. There's a lot of them that wanted me to get submitted to CPS and find foster care and all this other stuff. There was people really fighting and pushing for that. And basically, like Mr. Houston and what Carden said is that, look, he's not in trouble. He's staying in his school on his own discipline. He's keeping his grades up. He's still playing football.
Yeah, you were athletically qualified. That's keeping your grades up, at least to
Right.
to the right levels.
So, they fought for me. They straight up just said, look, and Houston said this as well. If you try to get Dana, if you try to put him in a position, that's me, Dana, name drop.
Now, you've dropped it a number of times. This is not the first time you dropped it.
Okay, good. He said he's going to run. He's going to run. He's going to run, and we don't know what's going to happen to him. We don't know if he's going to get into a bad situation. They're more concerned about forcing me out of the comfort zone that I was already in, and becoming a fuck up for the rest of my life. That's what they're worried about. So they basically came to the consensus that, look, he's not doing anything wrong. He's staying in school. Don't mess it up. Don't mess it up. Let him keep going down this path, and we'll just watch out for him. I had no idea. I had no idea that this was happening behind the scenes. That just explains to you a small town too.
Yeah.
How small the town was. I was the only kid in town that had no parents.
And that they were getting a lot of pressure from other parents too, because small town, a lot of busybodies.
Like I know one of the pressure was from my best friend's mom. You know who he is, Seth, and his mom was pretty prominent in the in the area, and she was involved with the special education stuff, and she tried to kind of, at first it seemed all okay, and she was saying, hey, why don't you come over, and I think there's programs that you can take a look at and all this stuff. But basically what it was smoke and mirrors and blowing bullshit out of her ass. I was disgusted, and I actually I came to have animosity towards her because I felt like she was trying to trick me. Because what happened is that she started to manipulate me into a direction of going down a path of getting into the foster care and CPS system.
The exact thing that you were running from to begin
with. And I started figuring out, because she took me to weed, to some community service thing or whatever. I can't remember.
And yes, everybody, it is that world famous weed, California, with the sign that has college one direction, weed the other, and the person standing underneath going, I don't know.
So anyways, after that, I lost trust in her and respect in her, but I still stayed best friends with her son, obviously, because her son didn't have that kind of mentality. But that just gives me an example of the parents that were getting involved trying to do something, or trying to think that they knew what was best for me. And I wasn't having it. I was not going to have it.
Yeah, no. Officer Cardin was awesome. I'm glad that he at least let you know about all this. A little after the fact, but still, at least you came clean and went, yo, just so you know. Here's where the lines were drawn, and here's who was on which side of which lines.
And to this day, me and Cardins are good friends. I make sure he understands how much I respect him, and I make sure that I make people aware of how much I appreciate them, and how much they've helped me get through Mount Shasta. Because in all reality, if it wasn't for Mount Shasta, who knows where I would have gone? Who knows what would have happened?
Yeah, another example of Cardin's doing the look. No one's getting hurt. Let's just let this be, because we know what's happening now and everything's stable. He knew two friends that every Friday night, one would drive up the mountain and the other one would drink. Had the designated driver thing going on. And then Saturday, they swapped places. And it's like, we knew who was buying for them. We knew where they were drinking. We knew where they were going afterwards. And we knew they were being as responsible with being irresponsible as can be, which is why I don't ever want to go and bust them, because the first time I do, they're going to run, they're going to change their patterns, and they're both going to start drinking at the same time, because who cares? And they're going to get themselves killed or someone else killed.
Yeah.
I mean, and that is a level of understanding of human nature that is not common. And being able to accept, this is what they're doing. No, we'd prefer that they don't do it, but at least they're not doing it in a way that's going to get anybody killed.
Right.
And there's so many other officers that are just like, I want this bust.
Yeah. There's been moments. I mean, I got into a bad situation in high school where I was following my older friends, and one of them happened to want to rob his own grandparents' restaurant. And I think you know what it is, Wendy's restaurant. I went along with it.
I remember Wendy's.
Yeah, and I was just going because I wanted to have a steak and some food. But
it wasn't the best food, but it was still good. It was food.
Yeah. Well, that was a living experience for me, and then all I got was probation for that, and I got lucky on that one, but that was the last thing that I did. In any case, is there any questions, anything specific that I should highlight on?
A lot of people were talking about how the girlfriends are basically Yoko.
Yeah.
And I just had to throw out there, Yoko was to the Beatles as Ted Bundy was to co-eds.
Yeah, it was...
Well, May did comment, I am where I am because I've been where I've been.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Deverne made a comment. He says, I let being special ed control how I thought of myself. I'm glad Dee didn't think that way.
Yeah. I saw that happening. I saw it happening. I actually saw where kids were convinced to themselves. They were convinced that they were special, and they almost went on in life playing the victim role. And I don't mean to talk, bad about them, but it was something that they took and ran with, when in fact it has nothing to do with it. It just means they get a different kind of attention to get through the challenges that are different from other people. That's it. It doesn't define who you are. And I've noticed that a lot of friends that I had that went through the same classes that I went through, now they live their life as if everything's out to get them, and nobody appreciates or has any tolerance for their ignorance or whatever the case may be. And it's like, dude, you're not stupid. You are not stupid.
No. Another person I would love to get on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Smith.
Oh yeah.
I know that some people would struggle understanding him, but man, I have been friends with that guy since kindergarten.
If there's a way you can get him to type, you can understand everything. He's so smart.
He's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I mean, if anyone could have played the victim card and no one would have batted an eye, him more than anybody I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an entrepreneur, runs his own business. I mean, was it supposed to live past 12?
Yeah.
And he's still kicking to this day.
Pimping one hell of a golf cart, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the parade, he pimped out everything.
Yeah.
And I loved how the community, for the most part, because there's always the ones that didn't like him. For the most part, the whole community backed him.
Well, yeah, but just when you see those people that don't like him, it's like, what is there not to like? I mean,
It's like, what is so wrong in your life that you have to take it out on him?
Yeah, but
that's how I feel about my little brother when I see people who shy away from him, or I was like, how can you not like Adam?
Yeah.
The kid is nothing but love. Nothing but love.
That's one thing I think I'm very happy that I kept an open mind is during high school, I didn't just stick with one clique. It was like Sarah and her deal is I was friends. I made sure that I was friends with everybody. That included Daniel, Mel Acord, the skaters, the I don't know, the preppies and I didn't care. As long as if you were a good person and you didn't judge me for who I was, we're going to get along just great.
And that's what blew me away about you, and actually kind of made me a little bit scared of you at first, is because you didn't judge. I was like, you're supposed to.
You're supposed to. Like, okay, this guy's got something sneaky up his sleeve.
And I have to admit, at first I was really thrown off by it, and it really put my guard up. But as I got to know you, I was like, dude, this guy's legit.
I mean, I always knew I have no right to judge. Who am I to judge? I'm just I mean, don't get me wrong. You do something fucking stupid, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you that was stupid.
Yeah. So you thought that was a good idea, putting your hand inside the gopher hole, huh?
I did.
That was stupid.
That was stupid. I saw that thing and I'm like, I'm getting it. And
you got it.
My hair was down to down halfway down my back. I'd pierced here. I had no shirt on, and I was the hippie kid, and I just darted right in the field. And I didn't realize he was right next to a hole, and he jumped in there, and I reached in the hole to try to grab him, and he bit me. And they took me to I still got the scars too. They took me to a hospital to get my rabies shots, and then that's when Dana became famous for the first time.
Why? Hearing this, why am I reminded of, I think it was a Jeff Foxworthy joke about a beaver biting somebody's nipple?
Oh, I missed that one.
I missed that one. I mean, it sounds legit.
Don't get me wrong, my imagination's going right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently they hit a beaver on the road, and they thought they killed it, so they picked it up, and they were like, look at the beaver, but it was just stunned. And when it woke up in their arms, it, bit one of their nipples or something.
Oh, my God.
There was a guy down in Carlsbad, just north of San Diego, who decided that he wanted to kiss his pet baby rattlesnake. Yeah, his head got as big as a watermelon from the bite.
Okay. May says, I commend you for focusing on getting your diploma. I'm the second youngest in my family, and my proudest moment is rising above to be the first to get my diploma of my parents or my siblings. And she also says, Tommy and I were the people who bounced around all the cliques in high school. He calls us the diplomats.
That's a good one. Diplomats. I like that. That's a good one. The high school diploma, that was number one goal. I was the first, and I think I'm still the only one in the family that actually has a legit high school diploma. And I'm also the only one in the family that has a bachelor's degree. So,
wow.
Amazing accomplishments.
Yeah, bachelor's degree was a big plus. When I got out of the Army, I was ready for school. Like, I was mentally ready. Like, I knew I could tackle it. I knew I was ready for it and ready to hit this up. And so, I went through and graduated with honors with my bachelor's. So
nice. Congrats. That's awesome.
Congratulations. That's
expensive
awesome.
Achievement.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, I can imagine. It's.
Yeah, I planned on being. I'll go for it, Bex.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say I planned on being the first with a high school degree, but now we actually I have a cousin who has a PhD. So Yeah, I didn't make it, and there's no way I could top that. That's just not happening, especially at my age.
Yeah, I think I'm done with education on that level, but
Well,
we're all still learning in the real world.
for yourself, not for your kids.
Yeah, kids. The cool thing is I was, let's see, I got out of the Army 36 years old, and the kids got to see me go back to school. So hopefully they see that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still keep learning. And
Yeah.
mom, right now, she's in nursing school, and she's in her 40s.
Yeah.
So hopefully that shows to them.
My wife got her her associates in nursing just before she turned 40, and she's going for her bachelor's here pretty soon.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you're never too old. And I mean, I've gone to the campus and I've seen people old enough to be my grandparents. To this day, still could be my grandparents on the campus going to school. They're not teaching; they're learning.
Good for them. Life is all about continuous education.
And I'm being told never say never. I said never, and I mean it. I'm never going to beat that PhD.
Who told you that?
Tommy. He goes Tommy last name. So we have two people in here in the chat right now. We have May and Tommy. They are a couple, and they have their own podcast called The Porch Drunkies, and they actually gave us a shout out on their annual
Porch
review.
Drunkies?
Yeah.
I love that.
That was the very first podcast I ever did. I was a guest on Porch Drunkies. And I would love to get them on this show because they both have just amazing stories worth sharing as well. Like, seriously. I'd like to get them both on at the same time, but I don't know that we have enough episode time for the both of them because they both have some pretty amazing stories.
That's right. Everyone's got. That's what I love about. Well, I've kind of learned to tell my story a lot more and more, and I just came open with the molestation probably 6-7 years ago. I just finally said, you know what, fuck it. What do I need to hide it for? Why do I need to be ashamed of it? It is what it is, and
it's not like you did it.
Right. But
it was something that happened to you, not something you chose. I mean, that's
right. Yeah, I came to settle with it, but what's cool is that when I start talking about my stories, I get to hear other people's stories because then they open up. They start to tell me about them, and I'm like, wow, this is cool. It's like a camaraderie. What's the word I'm trying to look for? It's like a class. It's like but everyone I talk to has some story. They have some story. And I want to hear it because it's just going to teach me more and more about it.
It's really cathartic to hear other people, once you tell your story, and then other people start to listen, and then you hear their story, and it's like you're suddenly not alone in the world, which is, part of the whole reason that E created this podcast.
Yeah,
exactly.
When he told me about it, I was like, dude, go all at it, because if people can start telling their stories and start being open about it, people are going to realize that we're all the same thing. We all learn similar lessons, but in different scenarios, and we all need to figure that out again. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like I've said for a long time, and it's been a while since I said it on the show, is that everybody's story could be absolutely unique. Could be the only time that story has ever happened in the existence of mankind. But we only have so many emotions, and we feel them all. So even though your story may be different than what anybody has ever had in their life, it's possible. The emotions and the feelings that you went through, going through that, we've all felt. And we could all connect that way and bond that way.
Recently, one of my friends on Twitter finally listened to the podcast, and the first 2 episodes they listened to were mine. And the response I got from that was, oh my God, I think I love you more now than I ever did, and I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
And I just, what do you say to that? I just told my story, and I'm glad to know that it touches people, that people can learn something from it. So I think that's awesome.
You know how they could thank you, or you could they could come on. Share their story. Just a thought.
Yeah, book them. Well, it's like what I tell the kids. I'm like, I always tell them, it's like, you're going to learn hard lessons in life. It all depends on what direction you take and how you minimize that the impact of that lesson. One thing I knew growing up is that because I was on my own. And because I was on my own and I was 12 years old and going 13, 14 until I was, I'm still on my own. I just now have a family. But I always told myself, okay, Dana, when I get into situations where I have to think about an issue or a problem and stuff, I think about it and I tell myself, think in a 360-degree fashion. So basically, if you look at a time clock, I'll start listing all these scenarios that could possibly happen by my actions. And I'll keep thinking and all the different kinds of things that may happen just by my action. And then that helps me decide what the best way of dealing with it, how to deal with it. So, or even making a decision. So I look at a decision, go this way or go that way. And let's look at it 360 degrees and see which decision is the best option for me and the best results. And so a lot of people say, God, that sounds so tiresome. And I'm like, well, at first when I was younger, I do remember struggling, and that was part of my depression. That was part of me wrestling with life, is because I didn't know how to process my thoughts. I didn't know how to file them. I didn't know how to say, okay, guess what, Dana, you cannot deal with this right now. There's no way to solve this one right now. So let's just go ahead and put that one in the file cabinet, and my mental file cabinet, and then deal with your ones that you can deal with right now. That was a big help for me, because in high school and in my early 20s, I was struggling with so much, like, how am I going to get a good job? How am I going to do this? I'm going to do that. And commercial fishing was probably one of the best things that happened to me at that time, because I had a lot of time alone to really think about me, myself, and how to progress and get my goals to happen. So I always tell my kids and everybody else, if you come up with something, think in a 360 fashion. Look at every kind of aspect, every scenario, everything you can imagine would happen. It may sound ludicrous, it may sound crazy, but still think about it. And you're going to come up with a better decision, a better solution.
And that really resonates with me. Like when I got a girl pregnant in my senior year of high school, I was getting so stressed out over that, over my grades, over the credits I still needed to get to graduate, and everything else. Like, do I want this family? If I do, how am I going to pay for it? And how am I going to get my schooling stuff? And blah, 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 blah. Where I went, okay, I need to cut some stuff out of my life, or I'm going to wind up killing myself. And I was like, I could come back to high school the next year. I can't come back to try to deal with this family, with the birth of a child. I can't say, let's just put this on pause for 6 months.
Right.
That's just not going to happen. And that's why I wound up taking a 5th year of high school, is because I went, look, I'll still attend for insurance reasons, but don't expect me to do any work, because I can't. I just can't. And then I went back the next year, and I did still get my diploma in the end.
Doesn't matter how long it takes.
Yep. I really wanted my diploma, but the high school wouldn't take me, so I went to Jefferson, the continuation high school.
Yep.
And had I done a mid-year graduation like I was planning on, because I was 10 credits away. 2 one-semester classes. 1 English, 1 history. 1 semester each. That was all I needed. I would have got a GED. But the principal at the time, he was like, if you just maintain your attendance 1 day a week for one class a week, 1 hour out of your week, at the end of the year, we're going to be accredited, and you're going to get a diploma that's just as good as Mount Shasta High's diploma.
Yep.
And I went, I'll see you every Friday, first class of the week, first class of the morning. And that's what I did. I completed everything. I got my senior project done. I got my English and history done real fast. After that, I was just basically teacher's aide.
Yeah. Teacher's aide. Oh, do I have stories? Anyways.
Did you hear the story about when people in my biology class decided to try to grow pot in our experiment?
I did hear something that someone was growing pot.
That was in my group, and I was a TA in 7th period, which was the last period of the day. And yeah, I'll admit it now. That was me that blew the whistle on it, because I was like, I was Mr. Straight razor, as clean could be, and there was no way in hell I was going down over this.
Yeah, I do remember hearing about that. We were like, did you hear about that? Someone was growing pot in science class, and we're like, what?
Yeah, they got lucky that
brave.
the seeds didn't actually germinate. Had they germinated, it would have gone from misdemeanor to felony.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that.
Wow.
Yeah, and it only takes 24 hours for them to germinate. So had I kept my mouth shut for 1 day, it would have been really bad. I mean, it was
I didn't
bad
even
enough
think
as it
about
was.
Oh, shit.
Man, we all had to go sit in the office, and they had officers there in full gear and sweating us out. Man, I had never been so scared in my life. After that was done, I went to the bathroom, and it was just, hey, sorry, it's going to be like hot water. I was that nervous and that scared. It was just hot
I would
water.
have been too. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what else I could.
Again, Mount Shasta High, man, I tell you.
Yeah, that's just I can't think of anything else you might want me to share. There's so much, and I probably skipped so much.
Anybody have any questions?
You got a lot of compliments. Like May say, congrats to you, D. It's a great achievement knowing what you've gone through. Kat, D, you have an amazing life story. I do admire you greatly. Congratulations. Yeah, you're getting the love, man.
You guys are awesome.
We have the best
appreciate it.
listeners. We really do.
You definitely do.
Hey, you're one of them too. Occasionally.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, when I can. It's just winter times here, and
Sometimes
barely
your ass
get
is
that
out
much-
on the highway immediately.
yeah, but we'll be tonight at 11 o'clock.
Is there another storm coming in?
Nope, we're doing storm cleanup right now. So,
Yeah, my yard yesterday looked like we had snow. It was hail. Like I said, we got thumped by a thunderstorm here. Like other parts of the area, they're like, oh, I heard there was a thunderstorm. Or, yeah, there was a little bit. I'm like, man, there was lightning striking right on the other side of my property line. We had hail coming down. My dogs were scared shitless. It was freaking loud and amazing and a huge downpour. And like I had to go, when I left to go, my kid had a Krav Maga lesson. I had to use my windshield wipers, and it looked like I had a big wall of snow on the windshield, that you're used to. But it was all hail. I was like, fuck, I haven't seen this in years.
well, that last storm that we got, we thought it was just going to kind of pewter out, but then all of a sudden it turned into a whiteout blizzard. And it was fun, though. It kept us plowing for 12 hours.
I still remember one time. You remember my friend Greg, the drummer, used to work at Say Cheese?
Yeah.
He and I one time, there was a big snowstorm. It was like in town, it was just those flakes that were about quarter size coming down, and they were just coming straight down, no wind. We decided to go up the mountain part way. We didn't even make it to the first turn on Everett Memorial Highway, and we were in full-blown blizzard conditions. And I was like, I'm getting out. We got pulled. We stopped. I got out of the car. I could barely get the door open because of the wind. And I got to the front of the car, and I jumped straight up. I landed about midway of the car and slid to the back bumper because of the wind. Got back in the car, went back to town. Dead calm, quarter-size hail, snow coming down.
That's awesome. A lot of good storm stories in this place.
And, of course, there's the Alien Foot avalanche.
Oh, yeah. Yep, it's still there. You can still see it.
I mean, I can't believe it hasn't started growing over yet. It's
yeah.
It's like it didn't just remove the trees, like it removed all the topsoil too, and all that's left is just rocks.
Yeah, it's definitely permanent. I mean, how long has it been? 20 years, 15 years, something like that?
It happened when I was still living there, so it's been more than 20 years.
Or more than 20 years, yeah. Yeah, it's still there. It's a permanent fixture.
I really want to go. I want to find out how to get to it and go hike around through it just to see.
Yeah, there's a Jeep trail we can go up there.
All right, so when I come up, I'll be like, yo, let's go.
For sure. I'm always down with that.
I got to get my kids up there. There's snow to play in. They rarely ever get to see it. Like, I personally, I hate snow. I like to play in it. I hate living in it. 26 years of living in it, I don't like it. I don't understand why you're still there. More power to you for doing it. But I got sick of the constant damp and cold to the bone that you could never warm up enough, during the winter months because it's just always there. But to go play in it, yeah, I love skiing. I love sledding. I love making snow forts and snowmen and having snowball fights. Fuck yeah, that shit's fun. Hooky bobbing.
Hooky bobbing. I was just going to say, you can't forget that one.
For those that don't know, hooky bobbing is when you grab the bumper of a car and you just go with your shoes or your boots and go sliding around the streets as they're driving you around.
Yeah, or you just lay down.
Yeah.
I've seen friends that are laying down and they hit a patch of pavement and they just get ripped off of the bumper. Awesome stories, man.
Or you find that pothole that's just filled with slush. You just soak your friend head to toe, soak them.
Yeah, good times. Hide behind a stop sign and wait for someone to stop, and then you jump out and grab their bumper without them seeing you.
Yep, and a lot of times they didn't even notice because they're so concerned about driving in the snow because it's tricky. It's tricky.
You stand up, and you just wave to them. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and it was definitely more fun than trying to do it like mass transit style. Because mass transit, everybody knows that there's always going to be people on the bumpers there. This, you never expect it.
No, you don't.
And make sure you don't do it when there's cops around because damn.
Now all the generations that grew up doing that, we're all adults now, so we all know the game now. We're always looking. Yeah, it's good times, man. I don't like being somewhere where it gets too hot. Once the 80 degrees hits, I'm miserable and half naked. 82, I'm naked.
Yeah, you definitely wouldn't survive where I'm at then. We get 113 sometimes or more.
I don't know how you survive down there with all the people.
I hide in my house. I work from home.
Yeah.
And I'm in the suburbs, so I'm not downtown. I can't stand downtown. I can't. People, there's some people that we went to school with, they're like, oh, I love it living in Midtown. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad enough where I'm at. I do miss the small town life in that regard. Like, I took my teenager and my little girl, and we went to Airbnb, a little place up in Grass Valley. Was amazing. Had the windows open at night, had the door open but the screen closed. Next to the big old pond with a bunch of bullfrogs, so all night it was just that woom, woom, woom.
Yeah.
Man, talk about something that lulls you to sleep.
Right. The small town thing, that's a good thing to bring up too. The whole deal about me growing up here in Mount Shasta and kind of making I guess you can say a legacy for myself here where everybody knows who I am. They know what I've been through.
Right.
Most of them do.
They may not know you, but they know of you. Everybody knows of you.
Right. Like right now, my nickname in town, everyone calls me the mayor because I know everybody and everybody knows me. So
You might
say,
as
"Oh,
well. You might as well be. I mean, you do so much for that community. You really do.
well, I do everything I can in my power, but I got to give back what they gave to me. But um, when it comes back to that last session that we had with my son, that whole dynamic, especially me growing up here and stuff, is the reason why we got all that support when it came to my son.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, I can only imagine what the Bills would have looked like if it wasn't for the help that you got. I mean, everybody pitched in where they could.
It was amazing, absolutely amazing. I'll always be thankful and keep people posted, and I'll probably do another um, deal in the paper.
Cool. And we'd love to have him on to get his perspective. And I'd like to have KZ as the co-host that time. That way they could discuss battle wounds going under surgery. And the fears of going under the scalpel, maybe not waking up, all that stuff. 'Cause I'm sure they could relate a lot. Plus, you know how chill KZ is.
Yeah,
I mean, he was co-hosting when you were on.
yeah, cool cat, and I think Ron would like that a lot because he's getting more comfortable with the whole streaming thing because he set up his room and so he can do online streaming gaming. So I'll ask him.
All right. Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to have him on. And then we could pitch his stream too. We had no problem with that.
Oh,
We'll pitch. If you come on the show and you want to pitch something, do it. Like if you have anything you want to pitch, do it.
I never think about it, but I'll try to remember for the next time and break the record as being the third time on the show.
You already set the record. At this point, everybody has to catch up.
That's right.
And May just figured out that you're that D, the one that with the tumor. And she just said
okay, so she saw that show too.
She listened to that episode too. She's like, I cried in Oregon. She was out of town at the time when she heard it, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm that D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
that episode had me in tears too.
So that was just what, last April?
Yeah. It was
something like that?
Something like that. I could look it up.
I just remember we were just, or maybe it was a little later, we're coming through discovering that everything was okay, and
yeah,
and me getting my life back together mentally and physically and stuff. So that had to have been around.
It was in May.
May 14th. Yeah.
Yep, there it is. You were you were season 1, episode 9. D talks about living 6 months wondering if he was going to lose his son to a tumor.
Yeah.
I'm going to copy that link and drop it in the chat. So if anyone wants to jump onto that.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah, and May just said that she would love to hear his story too.
Oh, definitely. Me as well.
And I just still love the fact that he wears that shirt that says "Chicks Dig Scars" because man, he's got a hell of a scar.
Yeah, he does. He embraces it now.
That's awesome. I mean, that is definitely not a scar that most people take lightly. I mean, even adults kind of shy from showing that, and he's just like, I mean, there's pictures of him on social media. He's just like, meh, I got a scar. So what?
Well, let me give you a little bit of update of how badass he's doing. So football season this last year. He can't do contact sports because of his chest.
Right.
So I made arrangements that he could practice with the team, but so he can learn the plays and this is my alumni school and he wants to play there. So I'm going to do everything I can to see if I can get him up there practicing with the team, no contact.
And if it wasn't for you, that field would still be basically just the Mount Shasta High field or even be known as Seahorn Field because Jason put so much money. And again, that was awesome that Jason did that. That field is amazing.
Yeah, it looks great now that he
God,
did it.
What we had, that thing was borderline shithole for a field.
Dirt track. We had a dirt track, but he put in that rubber track, and so that's why it's called now the Seahorn Track.
Yeah.
Because of the track, and then now the stadium's called after Blevins. But so we got Rowan practicing with the team. He throwing the ball really good. He got his spirits up and stuff, and he was doing really good. They made me a coach, which
Nice.
is something that's dear to my heart, to be at my alumni and be able to coach football there. And then also um, um, we got him a gym membership, so he's hitting the weights pretty good. He's getting his strength back. He's getting his strength. He's not letting him hold him down at all. He's not playing the victim. He's not doing anything. He's actually taking this whole thing mentally. He's taking it mentally, and he's just pushing, and so he can get not only back to himself but stronger. And so I'm very, very, very proud of him and what he's doing and his self-motivation. I'm not pushing any of this. All I did was made arrangements for him to practice with the team without actually playing a game, but being on the team. That's all I did. I said, and they welcomed it. And
So will he be playing before he graduates at least?
What's that?
Will he be able to play before he graduates at least?
He'll be able to play next year.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah, this is basically it's like a red shirt year for him then. You learn the playbook, you learn
Basically.
how to do it, you just get your footwork down and you get that basics down.
Right, and he's a quarterback.
Footwork's very important.
It was very important, and so he's still working on his footwork. But he practiced all year this last year before the whole COVID shut down the practices this last summer. He practiced as quarterback and learning all the plays. So next year he should come stronger and a little more educated in regards to how to play the game.
If you want a great comparison of footwork versus the rest of your body mechanics on how much footwork impacts the way you throw, view Tom Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo. Tom Brady has impeccable footwork. Jimmy Garoppolo's footwork needs work. And you can see how it impacts the accuracy. The rest of the upper body mechanics are identical because Garoppolo learned under Brady, but his footwork is not at Brady's level. Seriously, I watched the there was a video where a guy put it together side by side to show you and explain how the mechanics are off on Jimmy, how he keeps throwing off balance slightly because of his leg mechanics. And it's unbelievable just how big a difference it makes.
It does. It makes a big difference.
And
I'm going to have to take a look at that now. I'm going to have to put them side by side and look at them.
And then May, about 20 minutes ago, she said this, and it came back like full circle when you're talking about your son's perseverance, pushing through, and not being a victim, as she said, and you are never the victim of your circumstance. You are a survivor in spite of it.
Right.
Yes.
She also said, also, I'm sending you so much love. I'm happy that we could get an update. He's savage as fuck.
A crown to you, a trophy to your son, and a heart to the mama.
Oh, thank you.
You better put a heart for the sister too, damn it.
Right.
Honestly, it sounds like to me that when it comes to his perseverance and his dedication, that your son is a chip off the block, and that is he's gotten that from you. He had to have. Not genetically or anything like that, just
because this is a learned behavior.
Yes, just because of the way he has seen you overcome everything that you have, and you've never quit, and that's amazing.
I mean, just you trying to get into Mount Shasta and be able to stay. How many times were you on the verge of having to leave? Yet you found a way. You persevered.
I never thought about it that way. I never thought about his challenges going through what he went through. I never thought about that. I never did. I appreciate that. That's
I see it very clearly in everything that you're describing.
And I'm sure Big Sis perseveres too.
Well, yes. It reminds me of when I took the kids to Disneyland. Well, I made a point to take them to where I lived on the streets and where I ran away from. So on the way back from Disneyland, I took him to West Covina and I showed him where we lived, the apartment complex. I showed him the school that I was going to, and I showed him the grocery store, and I showed him where I slept, and I showed him where I ate every night. And I didn't think it made a pretty big impact, and I didn't think so because all three of them were crying. especially when they saw where I was sleeping. Well, at that time, the grates were gone. They put a shipping bay back there, truck bay. So the vents were gone. But I explained to him that this whole section wasn't here, and there was vents, and I showed him exactly everything. And I showed him where the garbage was, and I showed him where I went to the bathroom when the store was closed.
Showed them where the cursed pizza wound up going.
Yep, that's where it went and ran down the hill. Anyways, so I showed it all to them, and because I wanted them to see firsthand. This is where it all started for me, and I didn't realize the impact. But Nora and both the kids were they're crying, they're sobbing. Laura was a little bit older. She kind of took it a little harder because she said she was imagining her being in that same situation at her age.
So she was being very empathetic.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Thought it was a nightmare. She couldn't imagine ever going through it. And I'm like, well, I explained to him, I'm like, no matter what the trials are in life, don't think that you can't get something done just because of your situation. You can always tackle and get something done. And to be honest with you, I'm writing a script. I'm working on a script. I've been actually for like 4 years. It's like half a page at a time, but I'm working on something to where I can go into schools and talk to the kids and give them an idea that just because you think that you're in a position of no success or you're stuck in life or you're in an abusive situation and you don't know how to get out of it. Take me for an example that you can do anything you want to as long as you set your goal and manifest it and just work hard to get to there. That's my goal, is to reach out to the younger kids. And, I'd like to speak here at the high school, have a session with all the kids.
All right, everybody, into the gymnasium. Oh, do we have to? Although most of the time it was like, woohoo, no class, let's go to the gym.
Yeah.
What's this about? I don't know.
Part of my day in high school was when an assembly took place during my math class.
They're going to be like, oh, God, who's this guy? And then I'll start out with my first paragraph. I'm like, oh, no. We got to go through this. If I can change one little kid's life, that's all that matters to me.
Just like if I could help one person with this podcast, and we have, it's a huge success.
It's worth it.
It's definitely worth it.
Absolutely.
And I tell you what, it has not been easy. A year we've done this. This is the last episode for the first year. It's been a lot of work. It was a lot more work than I was expecting it to be, but it's been well worth it.
Sucker.
Hey, I love what I do right now, man.
Self-inflicted.
If it's,
no, good for you.
It's not a wound. It's self-inflicted. I enjoy the hell out of this.
Good for you. I'm happy for you. I mean, I really am. I'm glad it's all working out and it's gone on this long, because I remember you telling me about it originally, and I'm like, fuck yeah, go for it. Yeah. And now it's.
Oh yeah.
It seems to be.
I had the same thing to say to him. I was like, you need to do this.
Oh, she was relentless, though. I would get a phone call from her, and we'll be just talking, and 15 minutes in. So, you going to do the podcast? She was relentless.
Yep.
Good. I'm glad you did it.
I know you, and I knew that the idea was amazing, but I also knew you needed someone to push you a little bit to be like, you really need to do this.
Yeah, I needed that kick in the ass.
Good. I hope for much success for you, too, and I hope it starts to catch on like wildfire.
So funny you should say that. One of the listeners who has been a guest on the show was saying that they, after the Brandy episode, that some of her friends came up to start discussing the episode with her. And she was like, you guys are still listening to it? I mean, she's like, I still listen to it, But I wasn't expecting you guys to still listen to it. They're like, yeah, after your episode, we couldn't stop. So, and then there's other people that came in to discuss it too that she didn't even know ever listened. So, it is growing. It is catching on. We're at that phase now.
I think it's a fun way to heal, and I see a lot of my veteran friends, that's been in combat that are doing similar kind of things, and I've seen it work for them. So I'm on board. I think it's a fun, great, healthy way for people to really break things down and realize that like Beck said, you're not alone. You're not alone.
You're not broken.
No.
You just need to heal. And
Exactly.
it may take the rest of your life to heal, but isn't it worth it?
Definitely.
It is absolutely worth it.
And then May, you can rise above anything.
And she also said, I've said it 1,000,000 times. It's an important conversation, and 1,000,000 voices can be involved.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely.
The more we use our voice, I think the more as a nation or as a people, in general, can heal. It's like, I think, Eric, I think you remember me saying it, especially putting it on Facebook a lot, where I say, guys are trying to be all tough and their ego and is getting in the way. Is like, go seek counseling. There's nothing wrong with going to see counseling.
None.
I've gotten to the point where I actually enjoy and rely counseling, even if it's just something that it could be something simple, like the last time I went was about how to better communicate when I get into certain frustrations. How to communicate better. That's not something that's impacting my life per se, or ruining certain situations. No, it's just something I want to get better at. So why not go to a outside source and get educated or get a little perspective? So I always tell my friends, especially my male friends, because a lot of them are like, oh no.
The typical masculinity of the previous generations.
Man. Yeah, it's like
I'm just going to stuff it down. Okay, and you're going to wash it down with alcohol? Likely?
Yeah, I'm like, stop with your bullshit. Like, you need it just as much as everybody else, and it doesn't hurt. It was a campaign. That's right. It was a campaign that I started to run on. I shouldn't say campaign. It was more like a movement. And during the Movember deal, the whole mustache Movember thing.
Yep.
Men taking care of each other, and I was going through a lot of health problems at that time with my heart and stuff. And
that was scary times.
Yeah, it was. So I just, because I had the same mentality. I'm like, I'm not going to go to the doctor unless I'm dying. Or
well, guess what? You were dying.
Yeah, and so I ended up. I had it. It came to my head, and I said, you know what? Us guys need to stop this bullshit. We need to stop it and start taking care of ourselves. And then I broadened it out. I'm like, you know what? Everybody needs to take care of themselves. Everybody. So, anyways.
Yeah.
I keep going and going.
But seriously, thank you again for coming in.
Yes.
I know this wasn't the show that we were supposed to have. The person that we had scheduled, they didn't flake. They are just in a really bad place right now, and they don't feel that they could do the show. I get that. So
yeah, I get it.
We'll try.
We
to
all get that, I think.
Yeah. So I got the text message.
Yeah, it's like, can you cover? And you're like, maybe. Like
I didn't want to say yes or no. I just had to.
It's like, I could probably tell you the morning of. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, that's so scary. But then I checked the weather. Went, it looks likely.
Yeah, winter times it's a
hit or miss.
Yeah, it's a hit or miss. I mean, pretty much, I don't have much of a life just because of my work schedule.
No snow,
Graveyards
go
for
in
4
late.
months.
Yeah. No snow, go in late. Snow, go in early. That's basic.
Yep,
You just never know which
that's it.
Yeah. And I bet you're glued to weather stations during that time too. Get your weather app and check it every day.
All the time. I got like 4 of them on my phone, 4 different apps.
Please tell me you have what the forecast.
I had that. I did.
love
I
it.
took it off my phone. I love it too, but I was like, I'm
It's
like,
not
okay.
the most accurate. I will say that.
Well, not only that, I'm like, okay, let's get fucking serious here, okay?
Right.
Like, enough with the jokes. I'm trying to figure out if I have to go to work or not. Yeah, but it is fun. That's a fun one. We get a lot of laughs out of that one.
I've seen a couple of my suggestions make it in. I don't know if anybody else suggested it too, but it's nice to know that I helped to get a couple of the jokes in there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Nobody has any questions, and
May says thank you so much.
thank you. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, and thanks for being on. And I'm going to say this, starting next week, we're doing the 1-year anniversary episode. Hopefully I could get KZ on for that and just kind of go over everything that we went through for this year, how things changed and where we're going. Also, we're going to start opening up 5 minutes early with some music provided by moi, as some background music to give people 5 minutes to get into chat and say hi to everybody and get to know each other. In the meantime, make sure to get the Spreaker app. Yes, I know we were supposed to get our own app, but it's a lot more involved than I thought it was going to be and a lot more expensive than what they pitched. There will be apps eventually, but this time, get the Spreaker app, follow us, like us, and you'll get notified when we go live, and you'll get notified 5 minutes early to give you time to go ahead and jump in, say hi to everybody, and get caught up, and then we go.
Also, if you listen on any other app, because we're published on so many, please be sure to, subscribe there, like the episodes, share things with people. All of it helps the podcast grow more.
It does. It really, really does. And when I say that we are on a lot of different platforms, I'm finding out that there are platforms that are picking us up that I didn't even know that we're out there. Like, we're being picked up. Where is it? Devices? Was that it? No. Sources. Here we go. Just to give you an idea, just over the last 30 days, Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Bullhorn, Geo7, Podcast Addict, Podbean, Overcast, Player FM, Google Podcasts, Lav, Amazon Music, Deezer, Chrome, and generic Android app, which, of course, I wonder which app that is. It's kind of generic. And, yeah, but I mean, we're all over the place.
Good. That's the way it should be.
Spotify just overtook Apple Podcasts for the first time. So yeah, by all means, definitely give us a follow, give us a like, give us a shout out. Follow us on Facebook. As soon as I'm out of Facebook jail in 8 days, I will start being able to post to it more often.
Yes, I'm bad about remembering to post to it, but I have been remembering to share the episodes as we go live on Facebook. So
I'm going to be creating a new account here really soon and giving myself admin privileges on the new account. So when I go to jail, I still have my admin account.
Yeah.
Just for the podcast, because it's stupid that I don't have that.
Yeah, I
That's
agree
right.
with you completely, May. D, you don't need to apologize. This episode rocked.
Yes.
Right on.
Yes, it did. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
for everybody else, we'll see you next week. Thank you for sticking with us for a year. Here's to more years to come. Until then, I'm E.
I'm Bexy.
We'll catch you later.
I'm D.
Bye.
Bye, guys.